So, dead inventory. Um, a lot of supplies can become dead inventory. There's people that have made videos about that, about having too many play mats or having too many sleeves or having too many different supplies for collectible card games. But really, those things move more than board games do. So, really, the dead inventory is board games, or role playing games move even less than board games do, right? So if you're going into a store and you see board games and role playing games, just know that the store has those in there, maybe to draw people in, because it can be a draw. People are looking for maybe one board game. They're not looking to spend hundreds of dollars on a board game like they are looking to spend hundreds of dollars on a collectible card game, every few days, every week, every month, whatever. So the velocity of sales for collectible card games is extremely higher than board games, and especially role-playing games. So if those things are on the shelf, from the perspective of the store, they're kind of doing people a favor, because they could take the cash reserves they have locked up in board games and role-playing games and put it into collectible card games and quickly move that. And while the margin is smaller on the collectible card games and can sometimes only be 5-10%, usually I would say an average of 18 to 20%, I would think. Because they're moving that product so much, the profit is being realized on a daily, weekly basis. Whereas with board games, I would say the average is 6 months to sell a board game. And a role-playing game, like, people will come in, they'll buy the core books, and sometimes they'll come in, there's less people that will come in and buy every new book that comes out, and maybe buy some miniatures, and maybe once in a while buy some terrain. But there's a limit on how much people spend on role-playing games, and that limit is $50 to $300, and that's about it, right? So the amount of people that will spend this money is also far smaller than the amount of people that will spend the average that people will spend on Magic the Gathering, which the people that are continually coming in to buy Magic the Gathering are, in the same time period as they will spend as someone will spend on role-playing games or board games, and it'll be under $300 for those two things. The amount that they'll spend on collectible card games is closer to $1,000. Now, I think in a really older video, I looked at what people say are the number of Magic players, and it seems to be at 50 million at this point. And I don't know if that's active. So let's say the active amount is 20 million. Even if it's 1 million, basically, if you look at 20 million number and then you extrapolate the amount of revenue Wizards of the Coast gets from Magic the Gathering based on their shareholder calls and based on getting around their convoluted language of connecting the Magic the Gathering with board games. Anyway, it's somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion, right, for Magic the Gathering. And then you divide that by 20 million players, and I think I was looking at like $45 someone spends a year on Magic the Gathering if you count those 20 million players. But if it's lower, if it's 10 million, well, then they spend $90 a year. And if it's 1 million, well, then they spend $900 a year. And that seems to be more the case. So I think in a year, someone spends that is actively playing Magic the Gathering spends somewhere between $100 and $1,000, depending on what level they're at. Whereas with board games, they spend $50 to $300. Role-playing games, they spend $50 to $200, maybe. And miniature games and war games is probably comparable to Magic the Gathering, but they eventually reach a cap, right? So, like, I would say they spend anywhere between 200 and maybe $600 in a year, and then they only buy for like a few years, and then they got so many things they got to paint that they take some time off, and they'll still play with those things. And so, like, I've made a video up there, if I can remember to put that link in, about why a store has a play space and how it helps people, make purchases. So that's one of the reasons why they do it and why they shouldn't charge money for a play space. But also, just having these things on the shelf is tying up money that they could be using for the more lucrative collectible card games. So, if you think that their board game selection isn't enough, or you think that they don't support Dungeons & Dragons enough, just be aware they don't make enough money from those things to make it worth their while in comparison to collectible card games. So the fact that they're doing anything is kind of a bonus. And I think that just by allowing you to use those things, you should kind of, thank them that they have a play space available to play role-playing games, to play board games, and that they have even any selection at all, because again, they're tying up money and stuff that doesn't have the velocity of sales that other things do, but they're doing it so that they have a wide variety of things for people to see and buy. And one thing may lead to another sale, and because they want to have a store that is well diversified, right? Because sometimes collectible card games go through a downturn and they still sell more than board games or role-playing games, but at least the role-playing games sales and board game sales are at a steady low level, right? And then board games are at a steady medium level, and then collectible card games are volatile and kind of all over the place. So you kind of need a basis for that. So there's other reasons for it. I'm just saying that a lot of the time stores make this choice, and they'd much rather make the choice of the lots of sales and lots of churning of cash, so they can make their rent, pay their employees, pay the electricity, that kind of stuff. So if you're just wondering about the diversity of products in a store, that's one of the reasons for it. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and have a good day.